your intention with psychedelics matters more than how much you take of it, how often, uh, why you're using it matters. There is no right or wrong way. A lot of people say there's like people say you can abuse psychedelics, people whatever. I've made longer videos on this. I want to try to keep this all short, sweet, and to the point. That everyone's intention is different. This is why we don't necessarily know if someone else is abusing it. We only know if we used it, how they used it, then maybe you would be abusing it. So that's why you say they're abusing it. Or someone might say they're not even using psychedelics enough. And from my perspective, it's like if someone, because you can face your mental health issues with psychedelics. You can look at situations, yourself, your life, your mental health, your physical health, all of this from a different perspective with psychedelics. But it depends on your intention. So if your intention was you were taking psychedelics because you wanted to heal, then you're going to get this certain thing out of it. So for me, my intention was I wanted to take it spiritually. Like my first psychedelic that I was diving with was DMT. So I wanted to take it spiritually and dive deep and go into it. And how the shamans would talk about how ayahuasca is, the vine of the dead. It takes you to the spirit world and all that. That was my interest. It wasn't because I heard that you could heal yourself with it. It wasn't because somebody said, no, it never really crossed my mind that, I'm going to do these to heal myself. That was not my intention. Healing myself was just a byproduct of going down the shamanic journey. Taking the psychedelics spiritually, obviously, will have byproducts from that. So, the byproduct was I was able to begin to get to know myself, to build myself into the man that I want to be, to start to analyze, there's parts of myself that I don't like, and I can change those parts. There's, psychedelic, there's this whole thing with it, but there's a lot more deeper things to it, because for me, it was the shamanic journey. So, when people hit this thing that they call a bad trip, a lot of people mistake it and they're like, well, that's a bad trip. That's because their intention was different than the person who doesn't believe in the bad trip. The person who doesn't believe in the bad trip, they're usually the person that's taking it spiritually. So they have an intention to go deep. So they understand that they might have some points that are rough, that are hard to get through, some trips that are really hard to get through. But they know, and that was their intention. That's the point sometimes. Sometimes you need those trips that are just hard to get through. Those trips that other people would consider bad trips. But because those are usually the most spiritual if you learn how to let go, because there's almost different things you do when you're taking psychedelics spiritually, like shamanically, or if you're taking psychedelics to heal yourself, or some people are just taking psychedelics because they want something different from the normal blase blah life that that they're living. So the psychedelic gives them this wow moment of awe in their life, and that's their intention. And like I said, there's no right or wrong way. It's just your intention will matter, what you're getting out of it. Because I'm down here, but somebody's intention, when somebody's going to the store or if somebody's going for a hike, their intentions are different. Somebody going to the store, they might not pay attention to the trees, the birds, the water, the hills in the background, whatever. They might just want to get to their destination, so they're kind of focused, head down, just going. But the person who has the intention to just go for the hike, they're usually just taking their time with it, enjoying themselves, enjoying the birds and the trees and the wind and the whatever. but there's different intentions, and that path could be the same path. It could be the same path to the store is the path that people go on the hike to, but it's all based off your intention of what you get out of it. So it's like the same thing with psychedelics, that it's all based off your intention of what you get out of the psychedelic, and it's on you. For me, I wanted to take the psychedelic spiritually, so I started taking it shamanically, learning what do the shamans think about psychedelics, and then taking the psychedelic to confirm to myself, okay, now I understand why the shamans think that about the psychedelics, and then diving into this thing spiritually, just like people do with religion and sacraments and all this other stuff. That's what I do with shamanism and psychedelics and the plants and herbs, and all these different ceremonies that I do with the plants and herbs and the psychedelics, and it's just my thing. But that was my intention. Somebody else is going to get something different because their intention was different. So it's this thing where I was like, I've been thinking about this type of shit lately, about how, like, when I made the video about how much is too much, or, we don't really know somebody else is too much, or what's too much for somebody else. I thought about this, when I made the last video I made, where it's like, I don't really like to be sober, and it's different than I don't like to be sober. It's that I found the plants that help me in my life. And, cannabis is just a plant that I've used for so long. So, like, it just became part of my life. Now, for me, it's weird because a lot of people, they're like, I should quit smoking weed because, like, I don't, I have trouble where they always want to smoke all the time. For me, it's not even about smoking all the time or getting high as fuck or whatever the fuck. Like, it's about calming my energy down, balancing myself out. Because the sober me is so hyper and energetic and all the time that if I was just sober all day long, like, I feel like I would just be all over the place. I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's to the point where even my family is like, no, you should probably smoke weed. But that's what works for me. And that's my intention with cannabis. My intention with THC is different than other people's intention. Other people's intention is they just want to get high as fuck. Like, there's a difference. Person could be using the same substance. But it's like, if somebody else smokes THC, they might, smoke and be like, oh, I forgot what I was doing. Me, I'm always on THC, so that never happens. I also take other plants that help my mind, like lion's mane mushroom extract, or, like, I take care of my mind in different ways. I'm not just using the psychedelics to see colors. No, it's because I like to close my eyes and travel the spiritual psychedelic world. Like, I like to leave my body with psychedelics. A lot of people, I don't know, their intention's different. So it's like when they are if they close their eyes on psychedelics and they're getting ready to leave their body, they might kind of freak out and then consider that a bad trip, when I consider that what I'm looking for. Like, because everyone's intention's different. So, like, a lot of times that's what I'm looking for, because the first psychedelic I explored with was DMT. So, like, exploring with DMT, like, you're just diving into this world. You're like, you close your eyes and you just go into it. I wasn't smoking light doses of DMT, like, and I have before, to try to see what that was like, but I like to just explore the psychedelic world. You meet entities and you travel, like, there's these different worlds and cities of light and cities that, I understand what people mean when they were talking about the emerald cities and the whole, like, I get it. But that's what I was diving, that's what I was doing. Other people that are not looking for that, when they use psychedelics, what they're looking for is to be able to heal themselves, which they can find that too. But it's just, these things are very complicated. It's a lot more than just medicine that's going to heal your depression and anxiety. Like, these are some deep spiritual tools that can be used as spiritual tools to spiritually connect to what's actually going on in the universe and what's going on in your own soul. But yeah, these things can also, because they can help the soul, they can help your soul, and make you feel better about your life and maybe make you feel better. But it takes you through what humans consider hell to get to heaven, though. Like, you have to face your shit. You have to face your bullshit. And if you don't face it in the normal human world, the psychedelics will make you face it in the psychedelic world. And that's why people say, oh, that was a bad trip. But no, it wasn't a bad trip. It was, like, what made it bad? When humans say that was a bad trip, I always want to ask them, what made it bad? Like, describe why it was bad to you. And every time they do, it's usually something that would make me describe it as good, as a good trip. Like, they started leaving their body, and they, started facing themselves and all of their problems that they dealt with as a child, or all these problems they were dealing with. Like, they started being bombarded with it. Like, I'm like, yeah, that's a good trip, because that means by the end of it, you'll be a better person, a better version of you, one step closer to being your greatest version.